Hello, Illuminated Souls. I'm Brie Andrioni.
And I'm Tina Demore. Welcome to our podcast, Shamans After Dark. Today we're going to talk about, or continue to talk about, body image in our body series. And we're going to talk about how it affects men and women. And so, and hopefully we can get to appreciate our body as much as possible.
Wouldn't that be lovely? If we could
Yeah.
all really appreciate our
Yeah.
bodies, just as the gift that it is, instead of, beating ourselves up
Gift.
about our perceived flaws. And
It's been given to us as a temple. And so we're going to keep talking about that and how the media and social media gives us, constant comparisons, and we're never really good enough. It disempowers us, controls our idea of what's supposed to be.
do you find that social media or the, movies, television, publications, advertising are your biggest impactors as far as where you feel like your body image should be versus what you've been told as a child from your loved ones?
I think it's a mixture. And I think, because our parents are not free of social media and they're also processing all of it too, they can project onto you as a child. So I think it's not even one or the other. I think it's both.
I mean, I'm noticing like the shift now. Like, if more places are doing more diverse body imagery in their advertising, clothing is more, advertised to not just one body type.
Mhm.
So many more. I love that. I love seeing that. I mean, I did not grow up with that. Being a child who grew up in the 80s and the 90s, that was not my world. That was not what was given, shown or modeled to me as beauty. And I love seeing this increase in diversity in body shape and body acceptance.
I am loving it
And
too. It's
it
happening.
gives me so much hope for our future generations, that they won't
Yes.
have just this one image of what beauty is or what beauty should be. And I think that's a huge change. But I know personally growing up, that was not what was, my reference. It was
Right.
always, being very, very thin. And,
Mhm.
I was also given that narrative from my family, thin equaled lovability.
Mhm.
And
I was given something similar, and I think that a lot of people were. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that, really that definitely impacts our how we look at our value and how we value ourselves, and
Mhm.
colors so much of our perception of our reality and our everyday world, right? If I've been told, well, you want to be thin so that, you're lovable. And if you're not, then you're not lovable. And I understand now as an
Right.
adult that was advice given to me from someone that had been given to them, and they thought they were doing me a
Yes.
favor and that it would be a good thing for me to
Mhm.
hear. And yet and I heard it when I was 12 years
It was
old, right? But now
it was not
it was not
helpful.
helpful. It,
No.
it actually
Especially
really,
at a 12-year-old. For a 12-year-old, you're just developing your new human woman body or male body even, So it's that's such a poor message to give a child in that phase of life.
I remember I developed early, and the teasing at school, when you start wearing a training
Uh-huh.
bra and just like, oh, it's
Yes.
horrifying. It was so awful. And
Mhm.
it still carries some of that with me to this day of,
Yep.
this discomfort with
Yeah.
my body of being a woman in a body, it's so hard. And I think there's so many stories I've been given, narratives that are not mine, but I've adopted and become my unknown mantra. I mean, I know it wasn't my mantra that I started with, but it's a mantra that I adopted because I was told I was not enough in
Right.
some
I mean,
way.
for me, it was like you have worth if you look pretty.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then what are you wearing? You're, getting your, what's going on with your hair, or, yeah. And yeah, I think that it's not even just handed down from our parents or our grandparents. It's also in our collective culture, religious or cultural beliefs around the body being sinful. Um, and so you're holding all of this shame. And I've known men that also have a similar experience, but I mean, as women, I think we can only speak to our own experiences, how tough it is to not feel so judged and rejected and feel so, um, have our worth so impacted by how we look, because really it's what's in our hearts and our brains and um, our abilities.
We have no control over the bodies that we're given. Like the body that we're born with, the color of our skin, the color of our eyes, our hair is, a gift from our heritage that we have no impact or control
Yes,
over. And we should all be able to see the beauty in our
I
individuality.
know.
Our individual beauty is it's unique and gorgeous to everyone, right? It's just
We don't compare trees. We don't compare snowflakes.
no.
What the hell? I mean, why does this humans construct? I mean, we can look at a tree that's really different, or, I particularly admire trees that kind of grow off a cliff or grow
Yes.
off almost like eroded, near the ocean where they're sort of hanging. I'm like, wow, you are just an amazing tree. Not to take away anything from the other trees, but it's it's so sad to me that we have this culture around the world that we so compare ourselves to each other, and it's like this hierarchical patriarchy, really. um, I think for women, it is a way of disempowering each other and ourselves, and taking from the last time what spirit has to say, being rebellious about being in your body and being proud of
Ah,
it,
love that.
and being, you know what, I have a little bit of this, and this isn't falling this way anymore like it used to, but you know what, I'm going to flaunt it. I'm proud of my body. I love my body. It's carried me. I've gone through life with this body, and it's a miracle. It's working without me even thinking about it.
And it's such a
So,
gift. I
yeah,
mean, it really is. It's a
it
gift.
is.
Even our little flaws and perceived pieces that we don't like, just would love it. And I've been trying to consciously do this because I'm notoriously bad about tearing myself down when I look in the mirror and being like, you know, ugh, I don't like this. I don't like
Yeah,
that. I'm really
right.
trying to change that and say, I like this about myself today. My eyes
Yeah,
are sparkling today, or like I'm
yes.
whatever it is, or I made a great choice to honor my body today. And I just,
Hmm.
the little things, finding small ways to just be, okay, I am loving where I am right now in this moment, not worrying about past, present, or, the future. Like I'm just this one moment, this one little now.
I think what's helpful is that when doing self-care around body care, Epsom salt baths or whatever feels right, is also a way of appreciating the body and being more in the body, and also loving your body as it is. I think that's helpful, at least for me.
Taking the time to just really, whether it's, I love a good bath or with a nice bath bomb or something, making this moment that just feels like
Mhm.
you're just time for you, like a date with yourself, right? You light some
Yeah.
candles, you sit in there, you got some
I
like
was just gonna
soft
say,
music
light some
going,
candles.
you just take a
Yeah.
moment to really say, okay, I don't have to worry about the kids, I don't have to worry about anything else, or a job, anything. It's just this moment to just say, I'm just going to do this few minutes for me.
Yep. And appreciate the body that I'm in. And we are, the stories we're given are stories we tell ourselves, and we have the power to change the story, and it's not easy, and it's not easy to unplug from the current mind chatter of the, I guess I would call it the collective matrix of how we're supposed to be. But how can we take back our power and create a new thought about how we look, how we feel in our body? And again, I think people with significant trauma might have a hard time being in the body, but I think, as my helping spirit said, be rebellious and be in the body anyway, as hard as it might be or difficult. I mean, there are lots of tools out there, and we're going to be giving you some. so, so yeah, I think there's a lot about creating abundance and rather lack in our self worth.
And also think some of it stems too, like because we've been fed, I know in the generation that we grew up in, especially that the media telling us what beauty
Hmm.
is or what beauty should be, this we come to this place where we compare ourselves to
Right.
those images or to the others around us and be like, oh, I wish I was like this, or I wish I was like that, or I'd be
Hmm.
happy if I looked like that or did this thing, instead of saying, oh, but I
Right.
have this part of me that's really beautiful, and I love this and appreciate this piece of myself, or my hair that connects me to
Mhm.
my ancestors, or my eyes,
Right?
or whatever thing
Yep.
it might be, and being able to see the individual gifts that we bring instead of what we feel we don't bring. If we just brought our conscious, even just our conscious awareness to our thought patterns around when we
Mhm.
find ourselves in situations where we find ourselves comparing or not feeling enough, or that our body's lacking in some way, if we could change our narrative, change that we're understanding we're having this negative thought pattern. If we changed it just a little bit, tweaked it to a way that became one of gratitude for where we are, or ourselves, or something that we appreciate about ourselves. Like, we showed up, even though I'm feeling uncomfortable and not enough. I showed up, and I'm
Yeah.
here, and I'm still
I
doing
still
it, and
am.
I'm still doing it,
I still
and
am
I'm making
enough.
space for those uncomfortable feelings. So it's not that we want to not feel those feelings, because it's part of being human, and we all have
Right.
spaces and uncomfortable valleys to move through, and our own work to do. It's just what might help us heal or shift some of that by just trying to change our relationship with our body, change our relationship and with
Right.
our stories around who we are and our bodies, and our self-worth. And
I like what you just said about, not pushing away those feelings, because I think a lot of people might, reject those feelings and just kind of, not wanna honor those, you know, self-worth lack of self-worth feelings rather, and I think it's so important to acknowledge them, and at the same time accept them and still focus and wanna feed, appreciation and love for our body and ourselves. And so, yeah, I really love what you said.
yeah, I think I think it's important that we honor our feelings, right? We don't want to bypass and move around it. We want to say, okay, I'm having difficult time
I'm
feeling good
having a
about
moment.
myself, because
Yeah.
I was definitely struggling not all that long ago. I was feeling like, I was like, ah, Mara actually said to my husband, like, I feel gross. Just felt,
Mm,
my
aw.
body just wasn't feeling good, because I had been not honoring what my body was asking of me to just, shift what I was choosing to eat that day. Or, I was keeping
Mhm.
myself in a pattern of way too much, eating too much sugar. And I knew it wasn't good for me, but it's always my weakness. I like sweet things. And, you know,
Mm.
and, but it's also me realizing, okay, my body's obviously telling me enough. You need to cut back a little
Yep,
bit and adjust how you're
yep.
doing. And when I did that, I was able to be like, okay, now I'm physically feeling better. So it's much easier to say, I feel much better today.
Yeah,
And I'm feeling better in
yeah.
my body, and I'm okay. Like, just because I will treat myself like a punching bag and beat myself up if I feel like I'm just
Alright,
falling into that rut of not honoring what my body's asking of me, and just kind of almost being self
right,
destructive.
completely. So, a few years ago, I really, fell twice in 1 week and hurt my neck, and at the time, I did every single modality you could think of, before having surgery, which was completely needed, and, that was almost a year ago, but, now at this time, I'm kind of missing the activities that I used to be able to do. I can't do crunches anymore, so I have to modify, and I can't beat myself up for that, and so sort of I've noticed I wanted to sort of play catch up, but you really can't catch up. You have to just move with what you got
Yeah. Meet
going,
yourself where you
and
are.
so yeah, and so, I've also cut down on carbs and really focused on my diet, and you know, slowly gotten back into exercising and meeting myself at the edge that I can meet, because I definitely can't do bouncy things like you can, Briam. So I'm jelly. I want to do the bouncy stuff,
Bouncing is pretty fun.
but I really I miss it. I love trampolines, but I was told
Yeah.
I have a fusion. I had two discs out and a fusion, and so I can't do bouncy stuff. That would be asking for it. So I have to just modify and meet myself where I am. And that's been a huge shift for me. And I'm going to be transparent. There's times where I'm really frustrated with it, because I like to do stuff that isn't necessarily good for my neck.
Well, and I and I'm just offer this out there, as of like, it could also be an opportunity, though, to be curious about what new things you might
Yes,
explore, that could be a replacement of, like, you can't bounce, which you know is a bummer and a
it's a
challenge.
bummer.
But you
Yeah.
could say, well, what other new activity might you be able to explore as an alternative that you may have
Mhm.
never done before that would actually be
Yeah.
meet your body where it's at and allow you to still have some fun in a way that you found or
Yeah.
like as a release.
Right, and to go along with the whole body image thing with that, it's like, "Oh, I've gained a little weight since then," and kinda comparing myself to 2017 when I hurt myself, and that's, 4.5 years ago, so I can't beat myself up about that, but I do catch myself. It's like, I've gotta catch up, I've gotta do this," and it's like, "You know what? I can only do so much. I'm only human, and, I can't do the crunches, but I can do other core stuff to help me, feel in my body and feel like I'm strengthening my body and feel healthy."
And I think, this is a great segue kind of to talk into about how chronic illness or chronic pain or
Yeah.
can really impact our relationship with our body. And I know I've had surgery on my Achilles tendon and my ankle,
Mm,
and
me
that
too.
laid me up for like a year. It took me 2 years to get back to where I was. I
Oh,
have
wow.
had chronic issues with my elbow, and I remember it used to get super swollen, like it would be swollen for weeks, and it was my dominant arm, and I could barely do daily activities. Like I barely use it. It just felt like a dead arm. And I just remember
Mhm.
laying on the floor and just crying because I was so tired of being in
Mm.
pain and hurting and no doctor. I mean, we did all the tests and like nobody could tell me
Mhm.
what was going on and what was the cause. And it just kept getting worse and worse. And I would sit at work with like bags of ice on my arm and I just couldn't even had to
Oh.
train myself to start doing things with my left hand versus my right. And, I've come a long way from that when I finally got to a place of being like, okay, I obviously need to make some kind of change. Something's not working in my body. And a lot of it was
Mhm.
related to food allergies giving me an abnormal inflammation response.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so that really correlated
Yeah.
to, once I could kind of get my what I was choosing to eat under control and eating things that weren't causing that this turned out to be tendonitis in both sides of my elbow and arthritis. And it
Oh,
would just
wow.
flare up and because I was having this allergy or allergic response to what I was eating that I just couldn't get the inflammation
Yeah.
under control. But I still can't do some of the things that I would love to do that use a lot of repetitive movement with my hands or resistance in my and I have to I used to be in a space where I was teaching Zumba, I was lifting weights, I
Oh,
was
I didn't
walking
know
to and
that.
from work, I was just so active. And now when I want to lift weights, I have to do a lower weight and I can only do so many reps
Mhm.
because my elbow will like go
Blow
out, like
up.
it will start to hurt. And then and if I overdo it and it flares up, then I can't work out for like a week. So it's been
Yeah.
a real journey to try and find a
Yeah.
balance. And I just
The
really
fine line.
fine line and also just realizing that I have
Yeah.
to tap in and listen to when my body says, okay, we're good here. And because I used to like to push myself, I'd always want to like push a little harder, do those few extra reps. And
Uh-huh.
now
Oh,
I have to
yeah.
be like, okay, no. You're really gonna
Uh-huh.
pay for it. Do I not want to work out again this week? Or am I
Right,
gonna,
right, right.
listen to where my body's at and honor it? And that's a challenge. It's a challenge because you can feel kind of trapped when your body isn't doing the way it wants or you're struggling with chronic pain. And I know you've struggled with this yourself.
Oh, yes. I mean, I had Lyme disease, from 2007 to 2014, and, I know I talked in an earlier episode that I was, ended up in a wheelchair in a nursing home level of care, and, reliant on someone coming in and helping me bathe and dress and all of that. So, and the pain, I would do, aquatic therapy, which was really good when you're in the pool, but when you get out, everything is so heavy. And when you've got deconditioned muscles and atrophy in your legs, I mean, oh my goodness, I remember one time after I got home from the aquatic therapy, I was just crying in pain, and it was so hard to stay in my body. And, so, it did impact my relationship with my body. It really did. I mean, I remember, looking at my legs because they weren't working and feeling like they weren't even my legs, sort of like derealization. And, so, I mean, pain and illness, I really think sort of go hand in hand with really not being able to feel like you can be in your body. It's that it's not safe to be in your
Yeah.
body.
It's uncomfortable.
But
Yeah.
it really is, right. because I think there's this piece too, Brie, that, you know, it's almost like you're feeling betrayed by your body, so you start projecting this anger at
Yeah,
it.
you're resentful. Like
Um,
you're like almost it
yes.
feels like a cage, you know,
Yeah.
you're I
Yes.
can't do
I
the
mean,
things I want to do. I can't live my life like everybody else lives their life.
right. Right, I mean, I wasn't able to date, I wasn't able to, so sometimes I would be invited to, a get-together, and I couldn't go because I was too sick or it was just too much to get me there, so it was, I remember just being there and being angry at my body, and then when I realized I just surrendered and I don't even know how I did it really, but I think that the key was for me to actually be present with the pain and move into the pain and move into those what were my legs trying to tell me rather than work why were they not working, like what I was trying to like listen to them rather than fight it. I think that was really the turning point. And so, yeah, I mean, I have a lot of compassion for people that struggle with chronic illness and chronic pain, because I've been there. I know you've been there. So
It's no joke. I mean, I went through a period of just being sick.
it's not a walk in the
Oh, no,
park.
yeah, I mean, I was so
Yeah.
sick every time I ate food, I was just ill, and again, so many
Ugh.
tests and no real answers. Of course, it eventually turned out to be, food intolerances, but I just remember being so sick and just weak, and it was so hard to show up and be in a body, and then also have people be like, "Oh, well, you look great," because I've lost all this weight
Yeah, I
because I'm,
know.
like,
Uh-huh.
horribly physically ill every time I would eat, and, um,
Ugh.
and I was like, "Oh, I'm glad you think I look great, even though I feel like I
Yeah,
would die right now." But
horrible.
that's awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thanks.
yeah, yeah.
Just not what I wanted to hear.
I had to do a very, very strict Lyme diet. This one doctor, I mean, you couldn't even have carrots because of their glycemic index. So I had a very good friend that came up to visit me every single week. I lived with my parents for a while up on the coast of Maine, and she would come from Portland to visit me. And each week she's like, "You're shrinking away." And I had someone else say, "Well, at least you look good." And I wanted to tear their head off.
It was so like, yeah, I'm not, that wasn't the goal,
I don't,
Ah,
and I would joke. I mean, I do the whole what is that? Like Billy Crystal, it's better to look good than to feel good, darling. But but I didn't mean it.
oh, it's so
I
hard.
think I aged myself a bit there.
But, it's so hard. The challenges we can have in this life in a body, it doesn't always work right, or things are wrong, or we're suffering with pain or illness, or, it's a struggle sometimes. It's a struggle to be here and be
Mhm.
like, okay, I'm in this body and I'm going to move through this. And how do I move through it? And sometimes, especially with
Mhm.
chronic pain or even chronic illness, you look fine. People don't realize that you're
Yes.
struggling because you've learned to cope with the pain. Like, why? Remember, my doctor's
Yes.
like, I worry about you because generally by the time you say you're not feeling
I'm
well,
hurting.
you're like
Uh-huh.
way over the scale of not feeling well. Of,
Uh-huh.
like, if I'd known you weren't feeling well weeks ago, we could be in a better position than where you are now. But
Right.
I just got used to functioning at a high level of being really sick, either physically or, like, I mean, I was just ill, and then in different ways. And it just became my everyday.
I think that just as horrendous as an experience as it can be, I think it's an opportunity in some ways, and I'm not bypassing this experience. Um, I think it's an opportunity to be as present as possible and listen to your body and self care and
Yeah.
meet yourself where you
Yeah.
are. And I get it's not going to be perfect. It's a practice. It is a practice, and some days you're not going to be awesome at it.
Yeah. Some days are gonna be hard, and some days you're gonna be, like, right in the space of the ugly, and that's
Yes,
okay,
yes.
and that's where I think we forget to be compassionate with ourselves and say,
Hmm.
"I'm struggling today, and it's okay that I am. It's okay that
Yeah,
I don't have to be perfect at this," and it's we're here to learn. Our lifetime here in this body is to learn, and we're all always going through different types of initiations. And I think illness, chronic illness, pain, these things that we struggle with,
yeah.
just
It's a
being in a
huge
body, are
one.
huge, big
Hmm.
initiations that we move through in our lifetime. And maybe it's something we carry with us our entire lifetime in this body. Is some of us, that's just where we're at, and the struggle
Right.
every day is a real one, and some days are good and
Mhm.
some days are not good, and it's, when you're able to maybe be a little more embodied on the good days, you're really feeling that good day to help you
Mhm.
get through the day that is not a good day.
Yes, I remember the days that, when I started to go through treatment and I had something called dystonia, which is sort of looks like a seizure. It's not a seizure, but it's pretty painful. It's everything in your muscles. I had generalized dystonia and so or dyskinesia, and so everything distorted, everything contracted. It was incredibly painful, but when I started going through treatment and I would have 2 or 3 days of sort of normalcy, quote unquote, I'd be like, okay, I can do this. I can take the 1 or 2 days it's coming because I knew they were
Yep.
coming. So it was sort of like this sort of treading on thin ice, but also really trying to live in balance with what I could do and not trying to overdo it on the days that I did feel well, which was hard, let me tell you, because I wanted to
Yes.
live.
Yes.
Ugh,
Well,
but the more gradually that I could move through the tough stuff, and there were more good days than bad. I was like, yeah, I can do this. There's like the eye and the prize, and I can make through this. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, so to
and I think
speak.
sometimes it's hard for us to allow ourselves to rest, which kind of leads me into, like, we
Oh
both
yeah.
journeyed around what does spirit have to say about around chronic illness and pain and how that affects our relationship with our bodies. And I don't know, Tina, if you want to take a minute to share what spirit came up for you.
So, my helping spirits said looking through our experience, chronic illness and pain can inhibit the embodiment process, which is something we know. But humans can naturally want to avoid pain or suffering. And many times humans having a challenging physical experience might feel betrayed by their bodies. Your modern culture is caught up in the fitting in the mold when the true path to shifting the relationship to illness, pain, and the body is to make friends with it. If your body is ill, if it's in pain, what are you doing to hone in and practice deep listening? Your bodies do not have a voice, but it has ways of speaking. If you're in pain or you're ill, rather than pushing away the experience and rejecting it, soften into it and begin opening your heart to yourself.
Love that. I love that. And um,
They sure are wise.
they really are, and they always it just you just can't make this stuff up sometimes. They like just blow me away with
No.
the when spirit kind of gives
Mm,
us their guidance and their input. And I had done the
yeah.
same journey, and spirit showed me that chronic illness or pain can make our bodies feel more like a prison than a sacred vessel. And it can
Mm,
be a hidden struggle to do daily activities, causing us to disconnect from our bodies, to escape the discomfort, instead of honoring ourselves and where we are in our journey with compassion. Illness and pain
yeah.
are a teacher, how they can teach us to tap into what our bodies are trying to tell us with a sense of curiosity and compassion. How might taking the time to tune into your body help us change our relationship with whatever we're suffering from, be it chronic pain, a chronic illness, um, some kind of limitation that we have. When we take the time to listen to our bodies, we know when to slow down, maybe modify a movement or nurture our body through what we choose to eat or consume on a daily
Mhm.
basis, and allow ourselves to rest without guilt and to support ourselves and our bodies with care and compassion.
I love how there's so much overlap with what we both
Yeah.
got from our helping
Yes.
spirits. And I often say to clients that work with me that illness can be a teacher, pain can be a teacher. They're tough love teachers, and I love how your helping spirits also deliver that message to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. It was really
It's
interesting
really,
because it
yeah,
has all of the challenges that I know that I've been through have taught me so much. And I've grown in unexpected ways, and not like, it wasn't easy. It certainly wouldn't want to go back and be stuck in those spaces,
no,
but I
no, no,
still have those daily
no.
challenges, and I've learned, like, my knees, just even aging
Hmm.
process of, it doesn't have to be chronic illness or pain, but just aging, like, I
I
cannot do
know.
lunges anymore because my knees are like, "No." Or
They're,
overreaching,
what are you
Yeah, they're
doing?
like, "We don't like this. No, no." So
I
so
don't
I
think
learned to modify.
so.
I modify, a different movement that gives me the same kind of effect. But it's when we can listen. And also, I just think we live in a society that doesn't honor rest. I think there's so much guilt when we say,
No, that's
I
so
want to
true.
rest. I just need a day
Good
of not doing
point.
anything and being non-productive. And
We are human beings, not human but doings, and we are so programmed to like get to the finish line and finish this and do. And yeah, rest is overlooked.
Yeah, and it's so amazing if we actually just built in time for regular rest.
I know. Yeah. We need that. I was in Spain about 5 years ago, and I loved the siesta in the afternoon. Everything just closed down, and it was just so relaxing. The whole culture was so relaxing. Um, I just loved it, and I wish that our culture was a bit more like that. It was just, if you're working 12-hour days, it's almost like, I'm bragging about it because I'm just so I don't know what it's about
I think
really,
that all
but
kind of stems from the Industrial Revolution and where
right.
productivity and getting a lot done and just everything started to
Hmm.
speed up. Um,
Well, this is a piece too. When I was ill, I felt useless. My worth was connected with my
yeah,
productivity. And so I realized that, oh my gosh, that is such an illusion. It's such a lie. That my worth is based on who I am and what I am, not what I
yeah.
do.
We get really caught up until like our ability to contribute in certain ways is impacted, and so now we feel like we have less to offer someone or to our
Hmm.
families or loved ones or even our day to day.
Yes,
And that can be really disempowering to feel that way that you're not enough
very
again
much.
instead of being able to like I can do this and I can look at the things that you do every day.
Hmm.
Um, that
Yeah,
you're still going,
yeah,
you're still here, you're still doing the stuff even when it's hard.
yeah. That's what it's all about.
It is, and
So, on our website, shamansafterdark.com, there's a journey prompt. If you are a shamanic practitioner or have learned how to journey, go to your helping spirits and ask to be shown how pain or illness has affected your relationship with your body and yourself, and ask how you might improve that relationship. I don't know anyone that doesn't have some sort of
yeah,
pain.
or had pain at some point in time.
Right. So, and we're really interested to see any kind of replies or responses or anything you have to say about that. So feel free to do that.
We'd love to hear from you. So definitely don't hesitate to
Yes.
reach out, share what you maybe get in your journey if you feel like you want to.
Right. Yeah. So we'll hope that you will join us next week as we continue to deep dive into the body temple.
Until next time, everyone, keep on shining your light.